Hello, and welcome to this short video on creating e-portfolios. The structure of this talk is as follows. I'll firstly provide a definition of e-portfolios. I'll then put forward some of the reasons why education providers use e-portfolios as an assessment method. After that, I'll explain what can go into the e-portfolio. And at the end, I'll show you how to create an e-portfolio on OneDrive, as it's super quick and easy to produce. So let's start with a definition. At Academic English UK, we see an e-portfolio as a collection of students' work that represents their efforts and achievements in particular areas over a specified period. The learner is involved in the process as they are responsible for setting initial learning goals and selecting the best methods to achieve these goals through a process of reflection and evaluation. E-portfolios are used in education for several reasons. They promote reflection and critical thinking. They help to foster learner autonomy. They help students to see gaps in their learning. They provide a bridge between learning and assessment. They encourage lifelong learning. And they also provide a digital record of achievement. So, what goes in an e-portfolio? There are two main documents that you need to include. One is a portfolio form. We've called ours Portfolio Evidence and Reflection, and the other is a document containing your evidence. Let's start with the portfolio form. You can download this form in the link below. As I mentioned in the definition, the student is responsible for what goes into their portfolio, and they do this by firstly setting academic learning goals, or ALGs. Now, how many the student selects is really dependent on the course that the student is on. For example, if the student is taking part in a 10 or 12-week pre-sessional course, then 3 to 4 goals would be adequate. However, if the student is partaking in a 3 to 4 week course, then 2 goals would be plenty, as we would expect the student to be completing this work independently outside of lesson time. However, for each goal, the student needs to complete one portfolio form. So if they set 3 goals, then they'll need to complete 3 portfolio forms each week. This is the form they complete. And you can see that it asks the student to write their ALG1 here. Now, you have to be careful that their goals are not too broad, like, I want to improve my writing, but more specific, like, I want to improve my coherence and cohesion in writing. As well as goals, they need to show evidence that they are working towards achieving these goals. They add this information along with any links to websites that help them practice the skills stated in their goals, and the link to the document that shows their evidence in this section here. I'll show you some examples of evidence in just a minute. The form also includes a rationale section which explains why the student has selected the method, and a reflection of the student's strengths and weaknesses in relation to the goal. There's a small section for the teacher's feedback, which should include something positive that the student has done well and areas to improve for the following week. And at the end of the form, there's an evaluation section for the student to write how they will improve. So that's the portfolio evidence and reflection form, and I said earlier that they also need to include their evidence. So let's look at some examples of this. Let's say one of the students' goals is to improve their cohesion in writing. Then we'd expect the student to include a sample of their writing with some cohesive devices. They may start with repeated ideas, transition signals, and reference words in the first couple of weeks, but as the course progresses, we'd expect to see ellipsis, summary nouns, and substitution as well. We'd also expect the student to highlight these words and include a key for the teacher like this. Another goal might be to improve note-taking when listening to lectures. If the student has selected to practice using linear notes, then in this case, we'd want to see the use of headings, numbers, and bullet points in the early weeks like this. But progressing on to the use of phrases, abbreviations, and symbols as the weeks go by. Now, it's important that each week's evidence shows a clear progression from week to week and that the student is showing that they are working towards their goals. Okay, now we'll look at OneDrive. So, let's now look at how to create an e-portfolio using OneDrive. I'm going to assume that your students already have access to OneDrive, so we'll start from the My Files section. It should look something like this. Go to the round blue button and click to open the menu. Select Folder and you'll see a box appear on the screen. Type in Portfolio along with the student's name, and you can also choose a color if you like. I'm going to choose yellow. So here is my folder, all ready to start adding the content. Open up this folder and start creating your weekly folders in the same way. Click on the round blue button and then Folder. Call it Week 1 and choose your color. I'm going to choose red for this one. Once I have my weekly folder created, I'm going to put my portfolio forms and evidence inside the folder. So click on the folder that you're going to put your evidence in and go back to the round blue button, but this time click on Files Upload and select your portfolio form. Once that's uploaded, repeat the process to upload your evidence. You'll need to do this for each portfolio form and piece of evidence. And now you'll see my portfolio contains a folder for the week 1 and 6 documents. That's 3 portfolio forms and 3 pieces of evidence, 1 for each of my learning goals. I'll then need to share this folder with my teacher, and I'll do this by right-clicking on the 3 horizontal dots here and clicking Copy Link. I then need to click this little arrow to see the sharing options, and I'm going to select anyone, and then I'm going to click under More Settings, Can Edit, so my teacher can give me some feedback. Now I have the link copied, I can send it by email or I can put it in the chat function on Zoom or Teams. I'll then repeat the whole process each week. Okay, so that's the end of how to create an e-portfolio. If you'd like more information and the e-portfolio lesson, then please click here. And of course, for any other academic lessons and worksheets on all different aspects of English for academic purposes, then please click here. That's the end of this video. Thank you for watching, and until next time, goodbye.